Day 6, more information, more questions than answers. Now we learn from an FBI briefing that Thomas Crooks wasn't shot dead by snipers until 26 seconds after he fired his first shot.
One sniper took his eye off the scope, allowing the gunman to take several shots at the former president.
And that these snipers were not even the ones who killed Crooks, despite them obviously being trained on him the whole time. Their view of the gunman was likely blocked by this tree, leaving snipers positioned 2 buildings behind them and further away to take out the shooter. Colin Rugg writes the development is odd because it suggests that multiple teams appeared to be looking at or towards Crooks, who somehow managed to get off a clear shot on Trump. CNN reports audio forensics suggest as many as 3 different weapons were fired at the Trump rally. Presumably those of the shooter, local law enforcement, and the Secret Service snipers. They spot the shooter acting suspiciously an hour before Trump walks out on stage, pacing around near the building he would later scale to take the shot. They identify him as a direct threat 10 minutes before Trump takes the stage.
About 10 minutes before former President Trump went onto the stage, they had gone from looking at this guy as suspicious to now looking at him as a threat. That is coming from this briefing that the senators were in. They were told that Secret Service had called it in to a center that this guy they now identified as a threat about 10 minutes before President Trump walked on stage.
And yet they still let Trump walk out on stage. Surely you'd delay the event to deal with the threat first. A back-channel radio call went out to everyone right before the shooting, alerting them of the imminent threat.
Did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter?
He did.
Your officers are on patrol. They hear that there is a suspicious person on the rooftop. What did your officers do?
So our officers in the area started to converge on the building. My understanding is they did a full perimeter walk of the building. Weren't able to see up on the roof. 2 of the officers went to what appeared to be the lowest point from ground to roof. One of the officers actually boosted the second officer up high enough for him to grab hold of the roof. When he was able to pull his head up over the roof, he did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter?
He did.
And what did the shooter do?
Turned towards him, had the barrel of his weapon pointed at the officer.
At that point, the officer's hanging on
Yes.
to the side of the roof?
Yes.
Unable to pull a gun out?
Unable to
Defend himself? Unable to reach his radio?
Any of that, yeah. Strictly defensive movement for him to lower his head, duck, lost his own grip, right? Fell approximately 8 feet to the ground.
That's a steep drop.
It's a good drop, yes.
Did he get hurt?
He did.
In that moment, did they realize there's a threat right now to the former president?
They did. So both the boosting officer and the officer that fell were both on the radio, indicating that there was an individual on the roof that did in fact have a weapon.
Who did they radio?
So there was a blanket tactical channel being used.
Everyone heard it.
Everyone that was on that tactical channel heard it, yes.
How much time between that radio communication and the gun being fired at the former president?
That I don't have that information.
Yet Trump's still allowed to walk out right in the line of fire.
Here's what I'm hearing. There is an actual text record, so it's not disputable. There's text, phone text, if you know what I mean, right? That this threat may have been recognized at about 5:01 p.m., an hour before Donald Trump got on stage. And there are some people telling me that there was a failure in the beginning to properly get that information out. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, and let me give you the other side. The locals and some of the Butler County officials are disputing that, saying, hey, we told the Secret Service about the threat and they didn't do anything. That is going to come out in the wash once we get these records FOIA'd and out in the public. You're going to see via the text record who was notified when and what was done about it. Second, I have it confirmed from a source that there was no or very limited drone surveillance that day. There was no effective aerial surveillance plan, basically whatsoever. Aerial surveillance would have detected this threat on the roof. There was no drone. So we can now confirm that, which is an absolutely abominable security plan.
ABC News reported law enforcement officials told lawmakers Secret Service, quote, snipers spotted him on the roof at 5:52. The shooting happened at 6:12, 20 minutes later. Because of all this, Marsha Blackburn demanded that Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle resign. Then Mrs. Slopey Roof was angrily confronted by senators at the RNC.
Can you answer to anyone? I'm not telling you the answer. You answer to us. You answer to us. This is exactly what you were doing today.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe the people answers. You owe President Trump answers.
Go.
And she still won't resign. The blame game between Secret Service and law enforcement escalated, with the Butler Township Commissioner denying that the building the shooter was on was the responsibility of the local PD.
That our local Butler Township Police, their duties that were assigned to them, and we have an operational plan that details all that, were strictly traffic detailed. They were not required or not detailed to any security detail related to the event. It's strictly traffic to obviously to help people coming in and out of the event. If there is an emergency, those type of things. We saw the number of people, the number of cars at the event. And I was so frustrated and quite frankly hit my limit again last night when I saw, again, Secret Service says it was the responsibility of the local police department. That's absolutely not correct.
Local police also told Secret Service they didn't have the resources to station a vehicle outside the building the gunman climbed on. As to the motive of the shooter, well, it's all still a bit murky. Crooks reportedly posted a message on a gaming forum saying, "July 13 will be my premiere, watch as it unfolds." But then hours later, the feds came out and said that this was actually not his account. He also used a search term that was, quote, "Trump Biden, when is DNC convention and July 13 Trump rally?" He also apparently scoped out other high-profile targets, including members of the British royal family, as well as Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, and Merrick Garland, the US Attorney General. Was he just looking for the most opportune moment to target anyone prominent, regardless of political ideology? Did Crooks have no firm political beliefs, as we've been told? And isn't that somewhat contradicted by what his schoolmate Vincent Taormina said about the shooter? That he was in fact intensely political.
Thomas was a quiet kid unless there's something that he was passionate about, politics being one of them.
That he hated Trump.
So I brought up the fact that I'm Hispanic and, I'm for Trump. And he said, well, you're Hispanic, so shouldn't you hate Trump? And I was like, no, he's great. He's a great president. And, he called me stupid, or insinuated that as if he's like, well, that's kind of stupid.
And that countering reports he was just a loner.
He was not severely bullied.
He did, in fact, have a friend group.
So, his friend group, they were known for being, like I said, just out there, a little bit more recluse.
Which all the other kids speculated would produce a school shooter type.
They were definitely the type, and they did make threats to shoot up our school. The signs were there, and somebody definitely had to go down. Somebody, whether he was talking to somebody, or somebody either just didn't realize and just overlooked it, somebody should have known, because he was not a loner. And both of his parents being counselors, how do you not see that warning sign or something?
Recall that another schoolmate also said that he constantly wore a COVID mask.
He wore a mask. Like a COVID mask, even after COVID was over.
Which literally became part of the uniform for far leftists. Yet he wasn't really political. Joe Rogan said that if someone laid out this sequence of events for a movie script, it'd get rejected for being too unbelievable.
The Trump one is just so nuts too. Like, if he turns his head at the last second and the bullet grazes his ears, if he didn't, it hits the back of his head and he's dead, and then we fall into chaos, and who knows what the fuck happens.
Big chaos.
The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design, or we're in the Matrix. Somehow or another, he talked himself into trying to assassinate the president as a lone gunman in Pennsylvania, got on top of a roof, either through sheer incompetence or for some other reason. He actually gets a shot off, and the president just moves his head at the right time. Like, the whole thing is, if it was in a movie, I'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Meanwhile, despite all his boosters, Biden caught COVID again and immediately had to suspend his campaign, with the White House saying he had mild symptoms. But according to MSNBC's Joy Reid, it's no different from what happened to Trump.
His survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
Yes, Joy, nearly getting your head blown off by a matter of inches is exactly the same thing. If you value what I do and you want to help support me, please visit pauljosephwatson.locals.com and either pledge a one-time donation or subscribe to join my community, get early access videos, and message me directly. And exclusive live streams coming soon too. Promise. Check out the Locals link down in the description. And don't forget to take a look at the brand new website, modernity.news. That's where you'll find all my content, including exclusive articles. That's modernity.news.